I have a very special young man named Connor Kelly. Connor, welcome to the studio, and Mum Liz, welcome to you.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks for having us. I'll just correct, I'm a modern woman, so Connor's actually Connor Bailey and I'm Liz Kelly. So.
Connor Bailey, Liz Kelly.
Sorry, that's all right.
Liz, there are not too many people who can put up their hand at some point in their later in their life and say, I made a difference. Now, you are one of those people. You're board member of Children with Disabilities Australia. Connor's very excited.
He's so excited. He's very excited to see you, Dennis. Used to seeing you on Carols by Candlelight, and he's probably doing a shout out to his school, St Paul's. They're all listening to
Well, hello to everyone at St Paul's. Liz, can you just take us back a little way and just tell us Connor's story firstly and your story.
Connor is 11 years old, and I'm his mother. Connor was born with his disability, which is cerebral palsy. He has complex needs. He's fed via a tube. He's wheelchair bound, and he goes to school at St Paul's, which is a special school. He also goes some part-time to a school called QEast, which is our local primary school, which my daughter Claire also went, and she goes to high school now. And our lives are fairly, we try and keep it as normal as possible, but obviously the day-to-day of our life revolves around feeding regimes, nappies, wheelchair, 24/7 care. So.
Okay, you also have had a very successful career.
Yes.
How much did it affect your career?
Originally, I thought when Connor was first born, I thought I wouldn't be able to work again. I thought, well, this is it. We'd be spending our time in and out of hospitals, doing therapy, all those sorts of things. But as far as what happened then was he was able to access childcare, in mainstream childcare, and I was able to return to work. I am very career driven, so it was really important for me to actually return to the workplace. I now have my own business with a business partner, so it's actually, in some ways, it's been challenging to return to work, but in other ways I've found it's like what they say, give a busy person something and they'll get it done. I think I keep busy. I do a lot of work within the disability sector. It's inspired me. I've always come from a social justice, human rights background, and I think Connor came along and almost gave me that impetus to actually say, here you go, Mum, you're so good at this, let's see what you can do.
We'll get to that in a couple of minutes, but balancing between your daughter and Connor and the needs of your daughter, how difficult is that, the balance?
Look, I think we've struck the balance pretty well. It is a challenge for her, and it always has been our concern. My husband and I, we have a pretty good partnership when it comes to how we run our house. It has to be a pretty tight ship, very routine. But I think what we've tried to do is manage it as normal and so that's one of the reasons he went to her school as well. One of the things was to be in the community. He's known within the community. He's known amongst our friends. Everyone accepts him. Our family, our friends have accepted Connor, accepted us. And I think that makes it easier for Claire to manage. I think at times she has wondered why her friends have asked questions, but she seems to be pretty well adjusted for a teenager. Obviously she has got lots of challenges to come, but she seems very well adjusted.
16 past 12, special guest today, Liz Kelly, who is so much a part of the NDIS. We keep hearing about it, but I want to hear how it actually came about. Liz, I was told it took 2 years for you to get a special permit to pull up out the front of your house?
Yes, it did.
2 years?
2 years with local government.
So what did you do in that time? You'd have to park somewhere else. How did you get Connor into the house?
Well, we've got a back entry, but that meant we had to wheel a wheelchair over lawn. We did think about cementing the backyard, but that really wasn't our preferred choice. Thought about putting ramps in, but again, very expensive. And the easiest option, the best access we had, is at the front. And it was numerous calls, and Stephen, my husband, would be able to talk because he led the way on continuing to call the local council to try and get them on board to get a wheelchair accessible car park out the front, because it made a lot of sense. We could wheel him straight into the house and into his bedroom, into the front lounge room and that area of the house. So.
But that sort of is the reason why this whole area needed attention.
Absolutely.
Because you would think in Australia, in this day and age, that it would not take 2 years to address someone's need.
No, absolutely, and that's a common story of people saying no because of this risk or that risk, or we had a situation where, as I said, with our local council, where we're looking at having some in-home support so we could go out and in respite. So we trained a personal support person to feed Connor. We didn't have any training, but we spent a couple of months in training her how to feed him, tube feed him, just as we were about to.
This is off your own bat.
Yeah. Oh well, it was through local council,
okay.
So we spent the time to, so she was comfortable with it. Taught her how the process of feeding him, and the night or the week that we'll book in a night and we'll go out. They then rang and said, "Oh, actually, the policy's changed. We no longer provide tube feeding because it's seen as a medical need."
This is on top of all the battles that you have as adults with a child with a disability. You keep running into hurdles.
Oh, absolutely.
Car parking, a bit of help when you might want to go out for just a few hours.
Yes, yeah, it's common. I mean, and really, our story, I see us as part of the 1% that's probably quite lucky. We've actually had fairly good mainstream support. So childcare were fantastic, local school have been fantastic, local community, friends have been really supportive. But the stories I hear out and about is they're constantly fighting for what they want. They get sick of fighting, they get tired, they just go, "Oh, I've had enough, I'll just deal with it." And then I after being part of a play group or early intervention and meeting other parents who, you hear stories about trying to access school and they can't get into school. You hear stories about people trying to access some form of respite. You hear stories about people waiting for wheelchairs, and their wait list is so long that then their child's grown out of it by the time that they actually get the wheelchair. These weren't uncommon stories. And then I joined a couple of government boards, and it was very interesting. Then I met adults with disabilities, and you just hear the same stories. And there's some amazing people out there who've achieved some fantastic things, despite or in spite all of the challenges that they've actually endured.